Welcome to the Millionaire Maker Show, a podcast helping online coaches monetize their life's work and scale their businesses to create more time, more money, more freedom, and more impact. Now, with over 20 years of business building, coaching, and consulting experience, here's your host, author, speaker, and creator of the Millionaire Maker coaching funnel, Lindsay Anderson.
Welcome to the Millionaire Maker Show. I am your host, Lindsay Anderson, your resident expert for helping you easily scale your online business. Welcome to this episode. We are on episode 5 of a 5-part mini-series called Scale with Social. And today we are talking about how to convert more leads with my calls to clients sales script. You do not want to miss this episode. As a reminder, this is a 5-part series, so if you haven't caught the first 4 episodes of this mini-series, make sure you head to your favorite streaming platform and check those out. I have been sharing with you over the course of this mini-series my marketing and sales system for generating an organic social media audience of buyers and how to actually get those individuals off of social to buy from you. It's an entire sales and marketing system for selling anything online. So make sure you go and listen to the other 4 episodes. And today we're talking about sales. That's one of the topics that I am so passionate about because people really end up having a blind spot to it. And that is for a couple of reasons. First of all, a lot of people have the misunderstanding that marketing and sales are the same thing, that if they are marketing, then people will just magically start reaching out to them once they reach a certain level, and everything will be, hey, I'm here to buy from you. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, marketing is just about audience building, and that is where a lot of people, they spend a lot of time going to marketing seminars and marketing classes, and they pick up marketing courses, and they really do learn how to market, but then they come to me and they're like, hey, Lindsay, I'm doing all of this marketing, but no one is buying from me. And really knowing and understanding there is a huge difference between marketing and sales, and you have to have skills in both in order to actually make this online business thing a reality. And so what do sales look like? That ensures that you're having a conversion event. We talked about that conversion event on episode 4. I recommend my invite-only event strategy. I also like to do launches. You can only really launch about 4 times a year. When we put the invite-only event strategy in between, I can count on high-quality enrollment calls to be on my calendar every time I give that invite-only event strategy. And that is a sales mechanism. You don't want to be showing up to your invite-only event really just teaching and wanting to give and thinking that if people like you and if they had an aha moment event at your masterclass, that all of a sudden they're going to buy from you. That is not going to happen. Is what you will get is, Lindsay, you changed my life, but I can't buy from you. Or, Lindsay, you gave me 6 weeks of work to do. Thank you, but I cannot buy from you. And it's a real problem because you view that marketing mechanism, you're not viewing it from the viewpoint of sales. That masterclass is not for you to show up and teach. That's what your programs are for. That's what your course is for. That's after they buy. You have to go into these conversion events with a sales focus. What does that mean? That means using psychological triggers to build up the tension enough in those events that they will actually want to get on a phone call with you. And the same goes for that phone call. If you think that you're going to show up and sell on rapport and sell because people like you and because they have an aha moment with you and they've had a real great conversation with you, you will not be able to sell people. You won't have enough conversions, and you're going to be left frustrated. And it's a real skill, understanding how to outline your sales calls and your conversion events with psychological triggers that build up that tension. That is the only way to develop a marketing and sales system that you can really rely and count on. Otherwise, you're closing people based on luck or based on referrals. But as far as a cold audience, people who have not been referred to you, people that you have not met in person, these are just straight cold people off of organic social media. You have to focus and have a focus and understand sales and be able to give a good sales masterclass that you have perfected, that doesn't overteach and it doesn't overdeliver and it doesn't leave them with way too many things to do, and to get them on a sales call where you outline and show them, here are your gaps. What are you going to do if you do not get this? And you have to understand how to do that. Now, I'm going to solve one of those problems today. We're going to talk about the sales calls. Episode 4 of the Scale with Social Media series is about that invite-only event, and I outline how to execute that masterclass using psychological triggers. Because if you're just giving a masterclass and hoping that because people really like you, that they will buy from you, they will not. They will not. You have to implement sales psychology into these conversion events in order to start converting. Before I hop into what we're talking about today and to share with you my sales call script, make sure that you save the date for Wednesday, December 6th. That is going to be my annual Scale Up Your 2024 event, where we really get you set up to take 2024 by storm. You need the systems, you need the strategies, and you need the focus on sales. Make sure you put that on your calendar. That's going to be at 9:00 a.m. Pacific on Wednesday, December 6th. As we talk about that event and that you can't go into 2024 without a proven strategy. If you don't have a proven strategy, you will get overwhelmed with marketing and business growth. Like a strategy that takes an iterative approach that is more than just a flash in the pan, but something that you are committed to when it comes to growing on social media. You can't guess your way into a successful social media account that brings you high quality clients. It takes a strategy, so you've got to go in with a long-term strategy into 2024. Next, you want to make sure that you have a system. Organic social media only works. Yes, content is king, but consistency is queen. And you can't count on just pure willpower alone to make sure your social media grows, because there's too many variables. You grow and then you drop, and then something works and then it doesn't. And if you're just driving your social media marketing in fits and spurts based on how you're feeling for that week or that day, and you're not looking at the hard numbers to actually improve yourself and look at it over a long-term situation, you will not succeed in organic social media. And then finally, sales. If you're showing up on organic social media and thinking, hey, if people like me, then they will buy from me, that is not the case. You have to go into organic social media with sales in mind. Why am I posting this? And when I post that, what is their next step? And how can I actually bring them into my world and my marketing and sales system so that they can have an experience and I can guide them right into my programs? And it takes all three of these in order to scale online. So make sure that you have save the date, December 6th, 9 a.m. Pacific. This is save the date. So let's talk about sales. Let's talk a little bit about sales. If you have never taken a course to develop sales skills, then you are just closing on rapport alone. One of the biggest gaps I find in those individuals trying to scale their online business is that they've never really focused on sales before. And you have to develop those sales skills. You have to be able to get someone on the phone, be confident in what you are saying and what you are selling, and get them to be confident in what you are saying and what you are selling. And unless you have picked up some sales skills, and unless you have taken a program like mine, Content That Converts, that has a real focus on sales, you are missing out on sales, because there are psychological triggers. There are proven ways to get people to actually understand your value and for you to walk them through that on a phone call. So that is number one. 2024, a recommended goal of mine to you, if you have never had a sales course before and you don't understand how to sell high ticket, I would highly recommend one of your goals in 24 is to do that, because that will make you more money, that will generate you more revenue, that will allow you to command higher ticket prices and to close more off of all of this marketing you are doing than anything else. Now, for those individuals who are saying, well, I want to be a salesperson, I don't want that to be part of my job description, can't I just hire that out? The answer is no. You have to learn all of this information from your customers. The best marketing works when you are right there and you are talking to your customers and you are hearing the kind of person they are on the phone, and you are asking yourself, is that who I was selling to? Why are they on my phone? What in my marketing and sales process actually got this kind of person on my phone? And then you can go and take an iterative approach and then look at your marketing. Okay, well, maybe instead of titling it this because it seems to be attracting not the right client, I'll change it a little bit to this and then see how the sales call quality is, because everything is dependent on that sales call quality. Okay, you can't close somebody who is not a good customer. And the mechanism that's bringing that person into your world is marketing. And so you need to be doing those sales calls, understanding your customer. Nobody will close more than you in your business because nobody cares more than you. And so you go in, you roll up your sleeves, you understand how to close people, what to say to them, how to say it to them, so that they will actually close. Then we can talk about developing a system where you can start handing that off to other people. But it will not work to hire a seasoned salesperson and for him to start closing as much as you. No, you need both the understanding of what you do and who you talk to, plus good sales skill in order to actually develop a marketing and sales system that will grow with you. So, number one, when it comes to sales, you have to have a script. If you do not have a script and you are not following a step-by-step approach to these sales calls and just hoping that they will like you, they will buy from you, you are really missing out on the opportunity, because you need to have a series of questions so you can actually understand what these people are going through and what you can prescribe to them on your sales call. The methodology that I use is my calls to clients sales script and the co-creation method. The first thing you've got to know going into these calls is if you are focused on making sales, you are going to feel pressure. You're going to feel pressure to make those sales, and where's all the numbers? But if you're going in to these sales calls with a focus on making relationships, then you're going to make sales. And that is exactly how you want to go into these sales calls, because even if that sale does not close, yes, that is a huge benefit and a great outcome of a sales call. But if you can remain present with the person on the other side of the phone and asking yourself, how is this person on my phone? Do I want more people like this? What kind of information can I get from this person that I'm talking to that can then improve my marketing? And when you understand it like that, and that person talking to you is actually the greatest piece of information that you can get about your marketing. And not only that, when you're talking to this person and developing intimacy, the chances of them closing down the line when they are ready, when your sales process speaks to them in a more clear way, then they'll be able to close. So nothing is lost on a sales call. So if you're going into the sales call and you think it's a huge waste if you don't close them, okay, that is the wrong attitude. If you focus on making sales, there's wins and losses. As I just said, if you are focused on making relationships and building real intimacy with these people, then there are only wins. And when you're viewing it as what information can I get from this call to improve my marketing process, then there are only wins. You've got to go into this sales call knowing that the mission is helping the person on the other side of the call have a breakthrough and understand that. And providing what you do is you provide a service to people. And when you understand it like that, and the goal is not to make money, but to being of service, then you get to make money as a byproduct of that. If you are solving a problem in the world, you will make money. Before I go into the calls to clients sales script, let's talk about the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to enrollment calls. Number one is you are over-teaching. You end up spending a lot of time talking about yourself and your own transformation, and you're over-teaching them and giving them to all of this information that's available in your course, and they actually leave having 6 weeks of to-do lists. Why would they sign up for your program? And so the way I view this, typically people over-teach because you want people to like you. And that is a very normal human condition. And that is something that you really want to look at and start evaluating about you needing people to like you. You're a charismatic person. You are a coach. People typically do like you. And when people don't, then that's kind of weird. But it is super important that you go into these sales calls not needing to make a friend. I give up the hug on the front end of the call to get a hug on the back end after they enroll in my programs. I tell them how to grow their business, and they end up liking me a whole lot more on the back end. If you are over teaching on your calls, that is leaving your prospect overwhelmed. You're giving them a ton of free information. Why would they sign up for coaching? And it typically makes you come across as extremely pushy or desperate. And you've got to know that on every sales call, there is a positive and a negative. Just like on that MTV show, The Pickup Artist, he knew if he was standoffish to a girl and not overly desperate, she would then like him. A sales call is no different. So instead of overteaching, you really want to be focused on asking better questions. I'll be sharing with you my entire system for my sales call a little bit later in this episode. Number 2 people make on enrollment calls are they are over-explaining their services. You finally get to the part where you're pitching and you end up talking to them about how many Zoom calls they get and how many video modules they are and all of these details that they do not care about. It is essential you explain how your service will help them with their specific problem. Instead of we have 5 Zoom calls in a week, instead, because of accountability and because having a touch point with my client every single day is so essential, that is why we will have a daily Zoom meeting. Now, I'm not really recommending you have a daily Zoom meeting, okay? But that is just the example that I'm using right here on the Millionaire Maker Show. You do not want to over-explain your services. The third mistake people make when it comes to sales calls is they spend time convincing. Hey, if I were you, I would do this. And you really end up convincing people. That leaves you coming across as pushy and desperate, doing way too much talking and not enough listening. In fact, on these sales calls, you should be doing 10% of the talking, and that is really when it gets into inviting people into your services. You need to be listening more. Don't give your reasons for signing up. You have to know this about a sales call. They won't believe anything you say. They will only believe what they say. And so you need to create these questions to set them up to say the things that will actually make them realize that they are in enough pain and they are in enough of a situation that they are not going to be able to figure this out by themselves. And if you are convincing, it creates a ton of resistance and it leaves your prospect feeling like they're being manipulated. So you really don't want to be overteaching. Stop over-explaining your services and stop convincing the person on the other side. Now, I'm going to share with you my calls to client sales system. I had an enrollment call several years ago, and she said, Lindsay, I'm ready to invest in your program. In fact, my husband just died, and I'm going to pawn my wedding ring in order to get the funds to actually be in your program. Now, before I really understood that sales is something you do for someone and not to someone, I would have been like, I'm not sure if that's a good idea. I don't want that kind of pressure. This is a really big decision. And I would have felt some way about her pawning her wedding ring. Now, after I understood that sales is something you do for someone and not to someone, and after I really learned to embrace sales, when she came to me and said this, I, without a pause, said, I think that is actually a really great idea and a great way to celebrate your husband's legacy is pawning that ring, enrolling in my program, and allowing us to make this business a real dedication to your husband. She was on the same page. Now, she came into the program. She was terrified of sales calls. I set her up with my calls to client sales script and got her set up with the invite-only event strategy. She ended up making $15K on her very first invite-only event. That's really how you want to be looking at sales. Let's go over the calls to clients 3-step sales call script. So the very first thing you're going to want to do on this phone call is establish authority. You need to set the agenda, set the tone, and authority. You want to show up as a professional, set expectations. Hey, a little bit of small talk. Well, I really want to set up what the structure of this call is. This is kind of what the next 45 minutes is going to look like. And you actually really step into your authority. If they get on and are like, hey, great, I'm glad we're on this call. I have 5 questions for you. And they start asking you those 5 questions, seriously, put a stop to it and say, nope, actually, I'm going to have you pause on those questions. I am sure we're going to be able to answer those, but I have a real structure to this call. I have a series of questions that I'm going to ask you to really understand where you're at. The whole point of this call is to get clarity for you, where you are at, where your gaps are between where you're at now and where you actually want to be. And for me, on my side, I'm looking for clarity too. These questions will really help me understand if you are at a place in your life and business where my programs can actually help you successfully get to that next level. And that is how this call is set up with this series of questions. So I really take an authoritative stance on the call. Do not let your prospect run this call. The next thing is I create a gap. You have to paint out for them the gap. What is missing between where they are and where they want to be and what those steps are, and allowing them to understand they're not going to be able to cover that gap by themselves. And so I create that gap by asking a series of the right questions and follow-up questions. But ultimately, those questions have to cover why do they want whatever it is they're going after? Why do they want a successfully scaled up business? Why is it important for them? Yeah, they want to make money and have an online business, but why is it important? Are they 65 and about to retire and like this is their last hurrah? Are they at a full-time job and they're like, if the online business doesn't work, then I have to go back to my full-time job? I have to find out on those sales calls why it's important, and you also have to do that. The third thing I cover is why don't you have it? You've tried all of these things before. Why, in their view, do they not have it? This is where the real gold on a sales call is, because when they say themselves, I don't have it because I struggle with accountability, I struggle with tech problems, I struggle not having a good strategy, I struggle with consistency. When my prospects say that to me, I know my program will solve the exact obstacles they have had in the past and why they haven't been able to achieve their goals. And then finally, we've got to find out what's at risk if they don't have it. If this doesn't work for you in the next 6 months, what's at risk? How big of a hurry are you in? If you're in the same place a year from now, how is that going to be? What is at risk? And you've got to get them to say these things to you so that they can also clearly see for themselves what the gaps are and what possibly their life will look like a year from now if they are still in the same place. So you have to ask the right questions instead of asking stuff like, what are your goals? Okay. You have to ask why, what do these goals actually represent to you? Why are these important to you? And one more thing you have to remember on these enrollment calls is that people go into these enrollment calls, they know what the score is. They know that you're going to want to sell them something, okay? Or they've been sold to before. They have like these standard answers they give you. You have to be able to ask questions on these calls that they have never been asked so they can get out of that pre-programming. Their unconscious is kind of like answering these questions and them not having to think about anything because they've already been on enrollment calls like this before. You have to ask them questions that they've never been asked so that they will think about their problem in a way they've never thought about it and give you some raw answers that you can actually do something with. And one of my favorite ways to do this, here's an example. You want to scale your online business. I understand that. But you said that you'll have to go back to your job or have to remain at your full-time job. And they gave kind of a nervous laugh on that. Then I will say, I understand what you're saying. You actually really want to scale your online business. They're making sure they're heard by repeating back what they said. Okay, you really want to scale at your online business, but you're afraid that you have to go back to full-time work. Can you tell me more about that? Can you elaborate more on that? You find this one thing that makes you be like, oh, there's something there. And then you simply repeat it and say, can you tell me more about that? Make them dig a little deeper. If there are awkward pauses, great. That means you're having a great sales call and really building that tension. So the third step in the calls to clients sales script is prescribe. I've established my authority. That was step one. Okay. I've asked my questions. That's step two. Now I have enough information. What program of mine can I actually prescribe to them that will help them where they're at? And this is the prescribe section. So I say, based on everything we've covered, and I give them a full review of it, what I view their problems are, where I think their gaps are. I say I actually do have a program that could help you if you would like to hear about it. So I ask them, do you want to hear about it? I don't just dive into a sales pitch, and they will say, yes, I would like to hear about it. And that is where I prescribe. Maybe it's my one-on-one coaching where we look at your books and we get in there and we act as your COO and your CMO, and we really help you develop these systems in your business to get you to the next level. Or maybe they're a perfect fit for my Content That Converts program. Maybe they're looking to build a high-quality audience on organic social media and implement my IO event strategy. That's what they need. I will know because I've asked the right questions up to this point what they need, and I will use this part to prescribe. So I give them one offer and only one offer, and then I sit back and hear what they have to say. You give your offer and then you're silent. Again, if there's a pause there, that's great. You're building up tension. So if they come back to me with an objection, I use the turnaround method. This is a strategy that I love to call the turnaround, where I actually hear what they have to say, and then I turn it around and say, can you tell me more about that? Here's an example. I hear what their objections are. Maybe it's a time objection. Maybe it's a money objection. I always use the turnaround on this part. I hear what you're saying. You're saying this program is cost too much for you right now. Can you tell me more about that? And then I get all of the information from them so I can really understand why they do not want to sign up for the program. And then I have one more amazing tool in my pocket. If I'm really looking to generate revenue and they are a right fit client, and I think there is a way, okay, to get them into the program by meeting them where they're at, then I use the co-create method. And this is what it looks like. If they give me an objection about money or time, and I use the turnaround and really understand what those objections are about, then I will say, hey, would you be open to co-creating something together? They will always say yes to this question. And at that point, I can say, well, why don't we start with a 1-month program? We'll get you started, and then you will actually see the value, and we'll get you into months 2+ after that. Maybe it's a money thing. Maybe it's a time thing. Maybe you cut down on some one-on-ones that you were doing. But at that point, you co-create something together. After I say co-create, I say, would you be open to co-creating something together? If they had a budget objection, I will say, what would you be willing to invest right now to get from point A to point B? And then I will get a real number from them, a number that I can actually use and see if I could lower the value of what I'm offering them in any way to meet where they're at. If I'm in a place where I want to actually generate more revenue in my company and I actually want this sale. Now, you'll eventually, because you've implemented a marketing and sales system into your online business, you'll eventually get to a place where you don't have to use the co-creation method because you will have developed a system, you know you're attracting high quality leads, and you have a sales and marketing mechanism to bring them into your business. And then you don't have to do the co-creation method, but you always have that in your back pocket if you need revenue and you get that right fit client on your phone and you're ready to work with them. So there you have it. That's the calls to clients sales script. Again, that's establish authority. You want to set the agenda. Number 2, you want to create a gap. Ask the right questions. What is it that these people really want? And then finally, you want to prescribe. You want to offer one offer, and then you have the co-create method in your back pocket for meeting them where they're at. So there you have it. That's it for the Scale with Social mini series right here on the Millionaire Maker podcast. Go and start listening with episode 1. Cover these 5. I recommend listening to them a couple of times because as you go out and implement, you're going to understand what I'm saying even more, and those episodes will have even more of an impact. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Millionaire Maker Show. Again, put December 6th on your calendar at 9 a.m. PST. You want to join me live for this annual event. It is extremely powerful and will get you set up to a really successful 2024. If you like this podcast, please go out and leave us a review. Until next time, cheers to you and your success.
Thank you for listening to the Millionaire Maker Show with master business coach and creator of the Millionaire Maker coaching funnel, Lindsay Anderson. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time.